For Houston, from Houston, this is the Jimmy Barrett Show on KPRC 950.
All right, if you're a small town, well, medium-sized town, maybe your big city, any of those things. The budget is what the budget is. Obviously, the city of Houston has a pretty big budget. I'm not sure how big the budget is in White Settlement, Texas, but not as big, safe to say. But if there's two things that Houston has in common with White Settlement, which has in common with Dallas and San Antonio and Austin and all the other, Howlettsville, pick your town, big or small, is that they have less revenue to work with than they had last year. It's because we have had a variety of different lockdowns and closings implemented by government since March, since COVID-19 hit. And how they're going about coping, how they're going about figuring out what they're going to do, either to make up the shortfall or things they're going to cut from the budget in order to stay within the budget, because unlike the federal government, they are required to stay within their budgets. It becomes very interesting, at least to me. Joining us is the city manager from White Settlement, Texas. His name is Jeff James. Jeff, welcome to AM 950 KPRC. How many people live in White Settlement?
We have about 17,000 people that live in the city.
Okay. It's a nice little, what I would call small. Would you consider yourself a small town, medium-sized town? What do you think?
We consider ourselves in between small and medium-sized town. We're a town that, for the longest time, hadn't seen any growth, and in the last few years, we've seen a little bit of growth.
Exactly. For those who, because Texas, after all, is a big state, where is White Settlement? What is the closest major city you're close to? Is it Dallas?
But we're actually close to Fort Worth. We're on the west side of Tarrant County and right next to Fort Worth. That we border that city.
Yeah, and Tarrant County has had its fair share of lockdowns and business closures and the like. So obviously that has impacted your world there. Can you put a price tag at this point on what COVID-19 is cost the city of White Settlement?
Well, it's cost us a great deal in sales revenue. We have a budget that looks like our sales revenue has lost about $3 million between this year and the year prior due to COVID-19, and that looks like I don't know if we're going to recover from that due to we've got several businesses that have closed or they've decided to change the way that they're going to market with their products. And one of the largest businesses in our town was oil related, and COVID-19 has, very adversely affected the oil business, or affected, as the oil business is how it's being run. So we just feel like we're getting a double whammy on some of that.
When I guess no matter any government entity, there's a limited amount of ways that you can raise money. It's not like you can go out and sell something. Although I guess you could sell city surplus maybe. You got any old parking meters to sell? I don't know if anybody's in the market for those things anymore.
Yeah, no, we don't have any.
Yeah, okay, well, good, because I wasn't really looking for a parking meter. If you have something else that's kind of cool for the city, I might, like an old city sign or something, I might be interested in buying that. But something tells me that's not going to get you where you need to go. I mean, I guess you have what? You have two choices. You either raise taxes or you cut expenditures. So what have you had to do in White Settlement?
So in White Settlement, we have mostly cut all of our expenditures that we can, and we've reduced city services. We've reduced services at the library, at our city rec center, at the senior center. We've tried to come up with creative ways to serve our community with a drive up getting the books from the library, or doing a lot of interaction with members of our community on the internet. But we've reduced those city services. We've reduced as much as even in animal control, where we used to have animal control where we had a lot of, you drop off the dogs and a lot of interaction with people, but it's one area that we've had to cut back in as well. So we've cut across the board, except for with public safety, we have not cut back on police and fire, but everything else has seen either a reduction in staff and a freezing of all salaries.
How hard has it been to create a priority list? I mean, first responders, that's pretty clear. For state and local government, the school systems, local schools, that's pretty clear that that's a top priority. Once you get past those core services, though, those decisions get to be pretty tough, don't they?
Yes, extremely tough, and hard to figure out which one was best to try to cut back on without affecting your community. So it's been a difficult process.
I'll bet it has. Now, I'm sure you talk to other government officials in other towns like yours. Similar story. What are you hearing from them?
Mostly it's a similar story. Most cities that are our size or a little bit larger seem to have similar problems with their budgets. Very few cities seem to have been able to weather this situation and come out on the other end looking very good.
Yeah. Now there are some cities who want to raise property taxes. You can raise property taxes to thanks to the new state law, you can raise it to a certain, I forget what the percentage is that you can raise it. Was it 3%? That you can raise it without voter approval, but after that, you have to have voter approval to do it. Is there any temptation to put something like that on the ballot?
Not where we're at. There's not any temptation for that. Mostly there's not any political will to do that, and then the citizens aren't at the doorstep over here saying to go ahead and raise their taxes.
I wouldn't think.
we have a lot of people in town who are adversely affected here, where we've got people that are unemployed, and so we've tried to take that into account, and our elected officials have done that as well. So we're just not in a place where we're going to be raising taxes like that at all.
I'm sure your voters appreciate that, and I know as a voter I would appreciate that, because you seem to have an understanding, Mr. James, that that we all have to cut back during times like this, and you can't get, what's the old saying, can't get blood out of a turnip, right?
Right.
Hey, just out of curiosity, because I'm always curious about because we have some very interestingly named cities. Here in Texas, not too far from where we are in Harris County, is a little place called Cut and Shoot. You gotta love a name. You gotta love a name like that. And of course, the name of your city gets discussed every now and again in this PC world we seem to live in. As why are they called White Settlement? I know the story a little bit, but would you explain for our listeners who are not aware of how White Settlement got its name, where that name comes from?
Yeah. White Settlement got its name originally from the settlers that came out to the western part of Texas through here and were going further out west to, I guess, what you would maybe call Indian country or whatever. And about in the mid-1800s, the government decided to establish a fort, and it was called Worth, and that's where the city of Fort Worth gets its name. And as you traveled the trail that they followed to go out west, there was a settlement towards this area as they were kind of getting out of what I would imagine in those days would have been a protected area. And so the name of our city comes from the idea that the settlers, as well as the 7 Indian villages that were around this area at the time, called it White Settlement, because this is where all the I don't know what you want to call it, the new immigrants were coming into Texas, and this is where they were living, and they happened to be the white settlers, and then that was how the city kind of got its name, and then it stuck. There's a road that actually goes from Parker County, which is a county just on the other side of Tarrant County. It goes all the way from Parker County all the way down straight into downtown Fort Worth, which is called White Settlement Road, which is the road that everybody rode on with their wagons from the fort.
I'm guessing that there's probably been a lot of misunderstanding where that name came from, because every now and again I will see a story about how maybe they're going to change the name, or people are concerned about the name. It's hard to find fault, is it not, with a name that was given to you by Native Americans?
That's true, and there's been times where people talk about whether they want to change the name or not. As a city employee, if the citizens decided to vote and change the name, I'd be fine with that. But there has been times where it's come up, and it doesn't seem like the people in town they haven't felt like they needed to change anything, so it hasn't changed.
Yeah. Has anybody ever made a suggestion what you would change it to if you ever did?
I haven't been a part of any of those conversations. No.
Okay, because the whole part. If you're going to rename something, you better come up with a name that's a whole heck of a lot better. You know what I mean? Or what? Otherwise, what's the point?
Absolutely.
All right, Jeff. Good to talk to you. Best of luck in the city, and hopefully, as this vaccine gets distributed, we turn things around for everybody, including your little town. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Jimmy. We sure do appreciate you talking to us.